I want to welcome all of you here to the law school. We are proud to host a series of talks this semester on Palestine and law. This is our third, and we have a fourth one coming up. Mark your calendars on March 4th from 6 to 7:30. The wonderful Suhad Bashara, who is another Palestinian law fellow here at the Center for Palestine Studies and the Law School, will be giving a talk called Contested Normality, Bedouin Citizens Under the Supreme Court of Israel. So please be sure to make that event as well. So today I am just so delighted to be able to welcome Hassan Jabareen again to the law school and to Columbia. We had such an amazing discussion with you. Was it a year ago? A little bit less than a year ago. So welcome back. Hassan is the founder and the director of Adalah, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights in Israel, based in Haifa, and they do incredible work on behalf of Palestinian Israelis in a range of settings. But what he's going to talk to us about today has to do with the upcoming elections on March 17th in Israel, and what should we know about, what should we worry about, and what should we watch for with respect to Arab minority voting during those elections. Of course, the elections have been brought here in the form of Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech next week before supposedly a joint session of Congress. We'll see who shows up. But the Israeli elections have become a matter of domestic politics in the United States. So we will, for a moment, transform ourselves from the local back to the Israeli context to understand what's at stake in those elections and the degrees to which Arab candidates for elected office and Arab slates for elected office in Israel have suffered a range of discrimination, and Hassan and Adalah have been representing them in their quest to be qualified to run for office. After he speaks, Darrell Lee, who's an associate research scholar at Yale Law School and a great friend of Columbia University and the Center for Palestine Studies, will offer some reflections in response. And then we'll open it up to your questions. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say as well.
Thank you for the invitation and good evening. I want to speak about the Palestinian vote in Israel election. And this is a question that that there is Palestinian citizens in Israel and they participate in Israel election and they're part of the parliament is not something for granted. It's not even easy to understand this phenomena, especially when we are speaking about national minority who lives under national conflict, when the state that they belong to and the nation and the people that they belong to in a serious national conflict. So the question how the Arabs started to vote and why they are voting and how this will affect the internal politics, it's by itself is important. I think also in order to understand the nature of Israel politics and Israel law, it's important to know the exceptional case of the Israeli society, which is the Palestinian citizen of Israel. In order to understand also the relationship between Israel as state and the PLO, it's a matter to understand the relationship between the Palestinian citizen of Israel and the state. So from this side, I will see that it's important to understand this phenomena, how it started, and where are we going. Of course, I am not going just to speak about history. I want to connect the history to the current situation. In fact, the first time that the Palestinian citizens of Israel participated in election for the Knesset, it was in 1949. In January 1949, it was the first time that there is a free election in Israel. It's not easy to come and to say how the Palestinians who faced the Nakba, the catastrophe, and their people already, the mass majority of their people were deported, And some of them even legally live under occupation, like Nazareth area considered as occupied territory because based on the partition plan belong to the Arab state. And despite all of that, we found that this group who remain in the new state, that today they are about 20% of the Israeli population, who remain, they were willing to participate in the election, the first election to the new entity. They were willing to participate despite the calling from all the Arab states, especially Cairo and the Palestinian leadership, don't vote, don't give legitimacy to the new entity. It's colonial entity, it deported our people, took our land, don't be part of this. But despite the fact, despite the calling, 79% of the remaining people participated in that election. And despite the fact that the vast majority of them, based on Israeli official terminology, they were considered that living under occupied territories, Nazareth area, Jaffa, and other. So this question is important, why Israel wanted them to participate in the election and why they participated in the election. They participated in the election, in my opinion, because the participation of the election was a matter of survival for them. If you don't participate in that election, that means that you don't give legitimacy to the new state. If you don't give legitimacy of the new state, your destiny will be similar to your people. And if you don't participate, that means that you relate and refer to Israel and the new entity as an enemy. You are fifth column. Prove your loyalty. So we cannot understand this phenomena without understanding the Nakba. So the most important process in Israel democracy, the participation in election, couldn't be understood without understanding the Nakba and the catastrophe that the Palestinian people faced. The fear of that led the people to participate. Now you might ask me, well, why we can reach this conclusion? First, because we have many experiences of Israeli occupation of other Arab groups that they didn't participate in the election. For example, the Palestinian East Jerusalem. They could participate in the local council, and they could gain even citizenship, and they refused. The Syrian Druze in the Golan Heights, they can participate in Israeli election, and they are under occupation, and they refuse. And also, historically, we don't have phenomena like that. In the modern history, we don't have a group that became national minority during war, and during war they were agreeing to participate immediately in the election. So this was a good deal. Good deal for the Palestinians who remain in order to survive. Good deal for Israel to introduce itself as a democracy. And in fact, it was the first free election almost in the Middle East. So here, we can understand also Israel democracy because of that election. From that time until now, there is no Knesset without Palestinians. There is no Knesset and election without Arab members of this of the Knesset. Lately, and especially in the 90s, we were aware for the rise, especially after Oslo, rise of multiculturalism in the world, nationalism, and the claim for full equality of minority. And the leadership of the Palestinians in Israel started to raise the claim for a full equality. We want state to be state for all of its citizens. Before, their struggle was to survive, meaning they were under military regime until 1966. They wanted to end the military regime. They want, like Israel, to stop confiscating their lands, to stop the deportation process about them. In the 90s, the situation were different, especially after Oslo. But in one hand, when they start to raise their full claim for equality, we started to see a new process to limit their participation in the election. To limit their participation meaning to ask to disqualify some of their lists or some of their candidates. And Israeli law, which was enacted lately, say that if there is a list or candidate who challenge the notion of Israel as a Jewish state or support armed struggle of a terror organization against the state or incite for racism, there is possibility to disqualify the list or the candidate. There is electoral committee in the Knesset composed by different political parties of the Knesset. They have representation of that. And they decide which group should be disqualified. In the last 15 years, we are witnessing of a situation that there is no election without requesting and claiming to disqualify Arab list or Arab candidates. The major case started in 2003 against one Arab political party and against two Palestinian leaders. And the main reason to ask to disqualify them because they claim for full equality and demand that Israel will be state for all of its citizens. The argument was that to claim equal states will damage the notion of Israel as a Jewish state. Now, all the time, because I was the lawyer and still the lawyers in all of those cases, all the time I give myself credit. I say in the 21st century, I am the only lawyer in the history who stood before 11 justices and to claim and to say that it's legitimate for political party to run for the parliament because it's claim full equality. No one, no lawyers, I don't know any lawyer who face this challenge. I have to argue that it's legitimate to ask that the state of Israel will be state for all of its citizens. It wasn't easy because 7 justices were with me, but 4 were against that phenomenon. Now, in every election, we have that. In this election, the right wing tried to disqualify MK Haneen Zoabi. Now, it was switched in the notion from Jewish state to security, from ethnicity to armed struggle, from ideology to the national security. Now the argument starts to become, well, you are threatening the security of the state. You support the Palestinian people. You are against the siege on Gaza. You participated in the flotilla, meaning that you support our struggle of a terrorist organization against Israel. Because if you are against the siege and you participate in the flotilla, you give indirectly aid to the politics of Hamas. That means that you are supporting indirectly armed struggle against the state of Israel. But if we analyze those arguments, in the end of the day, the arguments say because you are with love with your people and you support your people, you should be disqualified. Because every Palestinian in Israel against the siege on Gaza. Almost every Palestinian in Israel for the end of the occupation. But here, the claim came in the name of security. Now, the Supreme Court in all of those cases dismissed the decision of the Electoral Committee. One of the reasons, on my explanation, first because the integrity of the judge, that they judge based on facts, and also because what I told you about the election of 49. The election of 49 made Israel perceived as a democratic state. The president of the Palestinian in the Knesset is one of the most important nature character of Israel. Without the Arab in the Knesset will be Beit Knesset, synagogue. Just Jews enter it. The Arab in the Knesset make make it look democracy. This is why, one of the reasons why it's easy for us to win those cases. But let us look about the voting. Who voted to disqualify the Arabs? Of course, the right wing, because racist attitude. But the most important thing that the Labour Party also participate in this. The Labour Party, politically, they shouldn't ask to disqualify the Arab list, because in the end of the day, Arab votes, Arab candidates are candidates against the right wing to make their government. It could be in the favor of the left and the center party. But why they do that? And also why they vote to disqualify the Arab list, and after the voting they come to us and say, good luck in the court, we hope that you will succeed. So how it could be, how it could be. This couldn't be explained without understand the racism that the Arab population facing in the country. To be against the Arab is good for you for electoral reasons. To vote even against your political, rational needs in order to create distance with the Arab population, it will serve you on the election. So in the end of the day, all of those processes are processes about delegitimizing the Palestinian citizenship status in Israel. Now, if this is the case, and we are speaking about election on the 17th of March, and today there is a joint list of the Arab political party, how this Arab political party will behave, to whom they will support. They have to choose either Herzog, the Labour Party, or Netanyahu. Now, one of the important phenomena of the relationship between Arab political party and Zionist political party, that both have agreement in silence. Don't invite me to be part of your coalition, and I won't ask to be part of your coalition. The Arab political party don't ask and they don't demand to be part of any coalition. The Israeli Zionist political party, either Netanyahu or the other, they will never say, we want you to be part of our government. This agreement based in two reasons. The Arab political parties don't want to be in government in situation that their people live under occupation. They don't want to manage the occupation. They don't want to be part of the occupation. Israeli political Zionist parties, they don't want the Arab because racist reasons. Because in order to make a legitimate government, the legitimate government should be relied on Zionist political parties. So in the end of the day, we have Arab in the Knesset, but they are not part of the coalition. And their existence there is not effective. We know one of the main reasons why to participate in any election and to be member of the parliament, in order to rule and to be ruled in turn. Sometimes I part of the ruling, sometimes I am accepting the rule of the other in turn. But you don't have this situation. This is why we had the phenomena, strong phenomena against among the Arab society to boycott the election. We have to stop to participate in the election because all what we are doing just to let Israel perceived as a democratic state. The Knesset is the place of enacting discriminatory laws against us. Our presence there is not effective. We didn't succeed through our presence in the Knesset since 1949 to make any serious changes. In fact, racism is an increase within the time. So why to be there? And in the last election, the percentage of the Arab population reached the lowest percentage on their history as national minority in the Jewish state. It was close to 50%. And it's very low comparing to the Jewish sector. Now, what saved the Arab political party this time, that the calling for boycott is not that strong, a new racist law against the Arab population. A new racist law that came from one of the most racist political party led by Avigdor Lieberman to raise the threshold for participation in the election from 2% to 3.5% in order to prohibit the Arab to be in the Knesset. But the result was that all the Arab political parties joined one list, and the Arab population are happy for this joint list, and they are encouraged. And now this political party of Lieberman in a dangerous situation that might not pass the threshold. So this encouraged the Arab, and because of the first time that they are in one joint list, the calling for boycott is less than in the past in order to give this historical opportunity its opportunity to manage itself. But if this is the situation between the Arab political party and the two major political parties, the Labour and Netanyahu, so it's matter who will compose the government for the Palestinian-Israeli case. Like many will say, we don't want Netanyahu to be the prime minister. Better to have Herzog, the prime minister, because maybe he will move toward the solution and with to start the negotiation between the PLO with good faith toward solution of two states for two solution. But as I said in the beginning, that understanding the internal relationship between the Palestinians, citizens of Israel, and the political party of Israel is matter. So how we could imagine that he will be willing to take serious step like that when he is not ready to take step toward the Palestinian citizens of Israel, and he tried to create alienation between his political party and them. To withdraw from the West Bank, it's not easy thing in Israeli politics. So this is why I don't believe that even if he will win the election, he will take a serious step against the occupation itself. Now, many of the Israeli Zionist left, they wish to Netanyahu to succeed. They want Netanyahu to succeed in the election for one reason, because it's clear for the world that this government will be a right-wing government, and the international pressure will continue to pressure this government. Government by Herzog will give good faces to Israeli government and will ease the international pressure, but will deep the settlements. As a fact, today, if anyone will read Haaretz, will see their fact sheets that prove that the number of the settlements were increased and developed more during the Labour Party than the Likud Party. Now, the third option is to have a joint list between a joint government between the Labour and Netanyahu. And I think this will serve Netanyahu, because Netanyahu will show liberal faces of his government, Livni and Herzog, and at the same time will continue with the occupation. So I am not optimistic about the result, whether this to be Netanyahu will be elected or the other. And all the time is important, from my perspective, to see the changes between the Palestinian inside Israel and the state. And from that factor, I can read whether the next government will be ready to take serious step toward ending the occupation or not. I will end here for the question, and now, Lee, go. Thank you.
Thanks so much to all of you for being here today. I've known Hassan for quite a few years, and I'm just amazed at how much I learn every time I hear him speak about the situation. I'll be very short. First, just to give a little bit of more basic background information. I know many people here are already very familiar, but I'll just be quick about it. What's fascinating about the predicament of the Palestinian citizens of Israel is that they are a minority within the sort of juridically recognized nation state of Israel, but they're also a minority in another direction, which is that they're a segment of course, the Palestinian people. And what we've had over the past almost 50 years now is a situation in which a single sovereign power, the so-called State of Israel, exercises supremacy over a territorial space that stretches between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. And under its power, under its control, is a population of approximately 10 million people, about half of whom are Jews and half of whom are Palestinians, and of whom only 6 million are actually citizens. Right? So there's a situation where a huge part of the population that lives under the control or under the authority of this government, broadly construed, whether direct or indirect, is not included in the count of democracy, in the count of elections. So the Palestinian citizens of Israel are sort of caught in the middle. If you can imagine a Venn diagram of those who live under the state who are citizens and those who are not, or rather those who live under the state and are considered part of its constitutive nation, the nation of the Jewish people, and those who are not. And those who have citizenship, the Palestinian citizens of Israel, are caught sort of in the middle. So if you are to think of those who live under the control of this power, who are not members of the state, not members of the nation of the Jewish people, there is a hierarchy. Of course, we have the Palestinian diaspora, which is simply removed from this equation altogether, being in exile. Then we have those living in Gaza, who are subject to the most openly coercive forms of deprivation and control, those who live in the West Bank, the residents of East Jerusalem, and then the Palestinian citizens of Israel, who enjoy, as Hassan has described, some limited franchise that plays a crucial role in legitimizing this regime to the outside world, but which always has to be under threat at the same time. And I think it's important to always keep in mind that this game that Hassan has so brilliantly described, whereby the Palestinian parties or Arab parties are threatened with being disqualified from the elections, but then in the end are sort of allowed to run, this sort of bouncing back and forth between exclusion and limited inclusion, is a way of having their presence to legitimize the state, but also keeping them in a situation of threat and precarity. And the reason why, one major reason why that's necessary, is because there's a perception that these people are not simply a minority within the state, but they're part of this much larger population, arguably a majority, which lives somehow inside the state and somehow outside the state, but which is still under the authority of Israel and still construed as a demographic and political threat. So it's the double bind of being a minority in one direction and you can say a minority or a special sort of fragment in the other direction that illustrates the tensions and the dilemmas that characterize this situation. The other thing that came out from Hassan's remarks that I thought was quite fascinating is the dilemma of partial inclusion that is presented to the Palestinian parties themselves. So Hassan pointed out that there's the unspoken pact that the Zionist parties will never ask Palestinians to participate in the project of governance for all of the reasons with which we're familiar, and that for the parties themselves, there is a significant reason not to want to be involved in governance and in managing the occupation. And this sort of dilemma it's very similar to the question around military service. So, of course, as many of you know, military service is compulsory for Israeli Jews, except for some Orthodox. And there's always been a sort of pact, again, that Palestinians inside Israel are not to serve in the military, and of course, Palestinians in Israel tend not to want to serve in the military. There are some exceptions, and of course, someone in this room has actually written a book about this topic, so I won't go on and on about it. But there is this interesting sort of dilemma that's going back and forth. It actually reminds me of a line by a hip-hop group of Palestinians who live inside Israel that sort of beautifully sums up this dilemma. In English, it goes something like, this is Zionist democracy. That which is permitted to the Jews is not permitted to me, and that which is permitted to me is actually repugnant to me, right? So those are sort of the selective dilemmas of incorporation and exclusion and sort of democracy and legitimation that are very sort of thorny for this population and the way that it's caught in the broader dilemma. So I have a couple of questions, and I'm just going to sort of exercise or abuse the position that I've been given here to ask some of them, to sort of cue up the question and answer session. The first has to do with the proposed legislation to have a basic law to declare Israel to be the state of the Jewish people. I was wondering, I would like to invite Hassan to remark on what this law means or doesn't mean, what the debate around it means or doesn't mean, and to help us all understand the distinction between the idea of a Jewish state and the idea of a state for the Jewish people, because I think there is a meaningful distinction there that people don't often notice. Another question I have has to do with extending our analysis of the dilemma faced by Palestinian citizens of Israel to the next population in the sort of rung of the ladder of control, and that's namely the residents of occupied Jerusalem. The question I have is, would it make sense, and has there been discussion around the idea of encouraging greater participation by Jerusalemites in the political structures, in the parliamentary structures and electoral structures of the Israeli state, since they're sort of the next step in that ladder? And you began discussing some of the dilemmas that are involved there. And of course, there's a shift in the attitudes between how the incorporation of Palestinians was achieved after 49 and how it was managed after 67. And I'm just sort of putting it out there as a sort of strategic question. Would this be something that would make sense to consider, whether in the medium term or long term? And how would the stakes for Jerusalemites be different from those for Palestinians inside Israel? And the third question I have is, and I'm sorry if this puts you in an awkward position, because some of these people are your clients or your potential clients, but I was wondering if you'd say more about the discussions around the joint list of Arab parties in Israel. This strikes me as a very interesting and important development, and you've broached that discussion, and it's clear that there are significant divisions between the Palestinian parties within Israel that they have so far, it seems, successfully managed in putting together this list. And I'd wonder if you can say a bit about what you think might happen after the election and what's at stake in the politics there between these groups, and also in their relationships with Palestinians who are not citizens of Israel. And if there aren't significant relations or significant stakes, then that's also something that I think it would be useful for us to know about and to discuss further. And that's about it. Otherwise, I thank you for these comments and really sort of dramatizing and explaining the practical aspects of a very basic tension, if not contradiction, between the project of Zionism and the principle of political equality, and how those sort of get mapped out across this larger territorial space. Thanks.
And as usual, always you have the greatest question, because you know the situation and you choose good and hard. The first one about the bill, which is called the Ethnic State Bill. And this bill created serious debate, very serious debate between the right wing and the central and the Zionist left political party. And some even say that this debate made this government of Netanyahu to fall. What this bill say? This bill was proposed by some member of the Knesset that they belong to the right wing with the encouragement of Netanyahu, say that Israel is a Jewish state. And because it's a Jewish state, it should keep its majority as a Jewish majority, the demographical aspect. Hebrew is the language of the state. The law of return is the law of the laws of Israel. And other group will enjoy equal rights. Now this law include directly the values of defining Israel as a Jewish state. Israel's Supreme Court has all the time saying Israel as a Jewish state because it has Jewish majority and it should keep Jewish majority, and the law of return is the main law of Israel, which allow every Jewish person in the world to immigrate to Israel and to become citizen automatically if he or she wish, but not to allow any Palestinian refugee to return. And also the Hebrew language is the main language of the state. So if this bill regulate the accepted value of Israel as Jewish state, why was the debate between the two parties? Why almost the government fall because of this bill? It should be like something in consensus. Something should be accepted by every Israeli Zionist person. The values of the law. Now, the left and the central political party, they say we don't need the law. We don't need this law. Israel is a Jewish state without this law. We don't need a law like that which perceive us as a racist state. No one in the Knesset challenge the notion or has power to challenge the notion of the state as Jewish state. And of course we will keep Jewish majority without the law. The right-wing answer and Netanyahu answer, so if you agree with that, why not to put it in the law? This is a serious challenge. The answer was no need. But I read this debate differently. I read this debate between the tradition of understanding the rule of law in Israel, which put by Ben-Gurion, and the new politics of Netanyahu. The tradition of Ben-Gurion was, you don't have to put racist laws in the Knesset. The government can exercise superiority and exercise exclusion with the Supreme Court without having law to show that we are excluding the Palestinian citizens of Israel. We don't need a law to say that Hebrew is the main language of the country, because we will keep it as the main language without saying that. Let us say Arabic and Hebrew are equal in the law. We don't need to come and to say that there is this state for Jews only. We will exercise it by that when we exclude the Palestinian refugee to return and when we exercise the law of return and no equality in citizenship. So this strategy was based, you don't need the law to say everything. The executive branch can do it. We know that there is occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, right? Since 1967. But there is no law in the Knesset until now say that there is occupation of West Bank and Gaza. We know that there are settlements in West Bank, right? There is no law say what's the status of those settlements, Israeli settlements. We know that the Palestinian citizens of Israel were under military regime until 1966. Go open the laws of Israel. You won't find one law to tell you that the Palestinians were under military regime. The executive branch made the work. So this law was debate between the tradition of Ben Gurion and the direct politics of Netanyahu. And this is the fascinating aspect of that. And I think that politically, Netanyahu was more convincing to the Israeli public. Because he said, if all of us agree that this is Jewish state, why we don't put it in the law? So this is about this bill. About why Palestinians in East Jerusalem don't participate in political process such as voting for the local council, for the municipality, and in fact, if they vote as one block, they may have at least half of the seats of the local council. And the municipality control their day-to-day life. Many of the laws, many of the orders against the Palestinians in East Jerusalem are coming not from the law of the Knesset, but from the orders of the local council in order to keep the law of the Knesset based on the heritage of Ben Gurion as clean. So it's a matter to be in the local council. Why not to vote? They are not voting because historically and based on the BLO tradition that the occupation is not legitimate. We don't legitimize the occupation. To participate in election, we legitimize the occupation. We make the discussion and the debate between us as Palestinians live under occupied territory, between the question whether Israel should leave us and leave all the occupied territories to constitutionally question. The question now that we don't want Israel to control us. We don't want Israel to control East Jerusalem, and Israel should leave the West Bank and Gaza. If we participate, that means that we accept the political game of Israel, and we will remove our question to legal question. This is why we, the Palestinians, don't participate. Now, other reason, the rational reason will come and say, well, why not to participate and really to be at least half of the local council or to affect the Israeli politics for their side? I think they also look to the Palestinian citizens of Israel. They look to this, the only example among the Arab world of national minority who participated in election of a foreign country, the Palestinian in Israel. Since 1949, they are in the Knesset. But they hear the Palestinian citizen of Israel that since 1949 we didn't achieve serious achievement because we are in the Knesset. And they hear the voices of boycotting the Knesset. So why to enter that? So I think there is dynamic between the situation of Palestinian citizens of Israel and Palestinian in Jerusalem. Because I look from my side as Palestinian live in East Jerusalem to this model, and I don't see success in order to be encouraged to enter. The joint list, this is really a phenomenon. We have three political movements. One political movement, party, the communism is part of it, and it's based on Jewish Arab identity called Jabha, in Hebrew Hadash, and believing coexistence. And now they have 4 members of the Knesset, one of them a Jewish Israeli person, 3 Arabs, 2 of the 4 are communist. We have also the Islamic movement in the Knesset, all of them Islamist, all of them men, and all of them religious. And we have Tajammu' Balad, which is National Liberal Arab Political Party. National Party say we are Arab first, and Liberal and this is why they have like 3 members in the Knesset, and the only Arab woman in the Knesset belong to this political party, and she, Haneen Zoabi, and she is feminist and secular, and 3 of them very, very secular members. So how the 3 political parties succeeded to join together? I think in the Middle East, in the Arab world especially, like we kill each other based on those things, you know. We killed each other based on nationalism and Islam. And here they are kissy-missy together. And it was easy to join together. I think because their identity under threat. I think because what they are facing is stronger than the differences between them. And this is why it was easy to join the list. It's not something for granted in the Middle East. In Egypt, we see secular against religious group, they kill each other. In Syria, the same. In Iraq, the same. In fact, among the Palestinian people, West Bank and Gaza, we have it. Here it was easy because you face daily racism and discrimination because you are Palestinian. Not because you are Palestinian secular, not because you are Palestinian feminist, not because you are Palestinian Islamist. Because first of all, you are Palestinian. And this is why it was easy to join the 3 political parties together. But notice to the name of the party. It's not the Arab Joint List. It's called Joint List. Why it's called Joint List? Because it has also Jewish candidates. So also it was easy for the Arab political party, for the Islamists and the National to accept one of the leading members of this party to be Israeli Jewish persons. Because they don't have this politics based on racism. And I think that this political party, although not all of its members are democratic guys, not all of them were born as democratic guys, but as a list, it's the only democratic list in Israel politics because it's 100% against occupation and it's 100% without reservation for full equality. And we hope that it will succeed. Like also persons for many different reasons were for boycott. Suad Bshara, for example, our friend. I think they are thinking that, yes, give it opportunity. So this about, if there is other question, of course.
Clarification. You said that because of the Lieberman wall, the threshold from 2% to 3.5%. I guess I don't understand percent of what?
Of the total eligible votes. Yeah, of the total votes you have in order to, in the past was, your list must gain at least 2% of the total actual votes in order to be counted. If you don't reach 2%, you won't be counted as a list. And now it's 3.5.
Other question is, these groups have come together as one list for the purpose of the election. What do you think will happen after the election, whether they win or lose, and what will happen to these groups, and how will they be perceived by Israel?
It's not easy to know whether the list will continue to work in the parliament as one joint list because the law allow it to come back as 3 political parties. But there is strong will among its leader to continue as a joint list. Now we don't know how it will come because this is the first experience that they have it, and we didn't have this experience before. Still, also there are ideological debates among them, and this is the first election that the Arab population in Israel don't enjoy the democratic character of the election. Why? Among the Arab population, the debate during the election is not whether political party will serve us better than the other, because none of those political parties will be part of the government. The debate is not who will be better minister than the other, because no one will be minister, and no one wants to be minister. The debate is about ideological opinions, ideological matters, about political opinions. Feminist groups will be against the Islamic groups. Islamic groups will be against the communist group. And National Liberal will challenge the notion of coexistence of the Communist Party. We open, the election day is our democratic day because we debate our internal issues. This is our opportunity to debate seriously each other. Not in order to be a minister. The election for us is election who is the biggest political party among us. Not which person will be the minister. So we are voting in the Knesset in order to send message to the world, all the world, who are our leaders. So this aspect today disappeared. You have in the panel today, in order to encourage the Arab to vote, you said two feminist women that just yesterday they were attacking the Islamic movement. And you have the two religious guys sitting, and one national liberal who were attacking the Hadash because they don't believe in nationalism. All of them together, with no serious debate, the only thing that they want to convey a message to the Arab population, please go to vote. So the only thing now, in fact, what happened in this panel, all of them agree to be nationalistic. They eliminate all the differences, and the only message became, we the Arab has to be empowered. We the Arab has to have a biggest list in the Knesset. We have to go to vote. It became very nationalistic, but without debating the differences. Now, I am a person who all the time was against the group that asked to boycott the election for main reason. I was saying the election is the opportunity to elect our leaders, the opportunity to debate each other. And this is good opportunity that we elect our leaders. And there is really common interest between us and the state. The state wants to perceive itself as democratic state. This is why they allow us. And we participate in order to elect our leaders. So this common interest works for both sides. But now when we lose that, it's a problem. So I don't know after the election how the political behavior will be. Are we coming back to the serious debate among any people? It was more normal that we debate each other. It's really more normal that we emphasize our differences between each other. Are we proud about these differences? We are not just one basket. You know? In fact, the only difference that you look at the list, the only thing that you can see, that, well, this is the only list in the Middle East that you have Jewish and Arab together. Maybe this. Yeah.
Comment on Geraldine's distinction between, if I got it right, the Jewish state
Among the Israeli Jewish society, the main debates is really and continue to be the relationship between religion and nationality. And the main debate is between two groups. One group emphasizes the belonging based on religious reasons. This is the right wing. And the other, the Israeli Zionist left, emphasize the secularism, and they said that we are Jews not because only religious reasons, because our history as a Jewish people, and the state is Jewish just because we are a majority here, and of course we support the law of return because the history of the Jewish people, and because of the Holocaust, this state should be the siege for every Jewish person in the world. But we don't need to emphasize the religious character of the state. The state could be a secular Zionist state. Now, the differences based on the understanding of the status of religion. The right wing see the Bible, the religion is the main factor which say our roots. This is why Hebron should be a Jewish place. Nablus should be a Jewish place because religious reasons. The secular Zionists don't see that. They are going to more pragmatical reasons. We don't need Hebron in order to build a Jewish state. Jewish state could be built on the Green Line and could be equal to the Palestinian citizen with some reservation. Reservation, you keep law of return, you keep the dominant of a Jewish majority, meaning demographical aspect, and the other we should be equal. Now, third, small margin group say we don't need to emphasize our Jewishnesses. We are just citizens of the state. And Palestinian and we the same. There is no any differences. Not law of return should be differences between us, and not demography. And this is why they try, this small group, even to go to the Supreme Court to submit petition that Israel should recognize the belonging to Israeli as nationality. Now everyone in his ID in Israel, the nationality either Jewish or Arabs. There is no nationality called Israeli. Like American, you are American, right? You are not a Christian or Muslims in your national belonging, in your passport. So this group went to the Supreme Court to recognize Israel as the nationality of the state. The Supreme Court dismissed this case, said there is no nationality called Israeli. And in fact, I think this is the only decision in the world that state doesn't recognize its statehood as the source of nationalism. There is, I don't know any state like democratic, modern state that deny it. This. The Supreme Court say there is nothing called Israeli people. There is Jewish people. There is Arab population, but nothing called. So, and it was easy to dismiss their case. But this group is very, very small. Most of them, they vote to this Jewish Arab list today. And the main is still within the Zionist framework.
I think related questions. The first part being, in terms of this law that is being debated about proclaiming Israel to be a Jewish state, what are the sort of spatial or territorial considerations there? I mean, is there, for instance, the settlements in the West Bank? How would those fit into this law? In some ways, would those sort of be, is the idea of the Jewish state that encompass the entire territory, or in some ways, this law actually be helpful for claims to get rid of settlements because they're not part of the state, therefore Jewish determination should not be exercised in the West Bank. So what are the sort of, are there ways in which the passage of this law would sort of undermine itself?
Surprisingly, that Netanyahu, when he tried to convince that he cannot understand the position of the Zionist left against this law, he said to them, if you believe in two-state solution, this is the law of two-state solution. Why you are against it? Because the law say, the bill, it's not law, the bill, say, make distinction between Eretz Israel in Hebrew, which mean like all historic Palestine, and Israel, which mean the Green Line. Eretz Israel belong to the Jewish people, but Israel is the place where the Jewish people will exercise their right for self-determination. That means that the West Bank and Gaza, you can read, not the place that the Jews will exercise their right of self-determination exclusively. The Green Line is the place. So if you support two-state solution, you should support this law. And this was one of the challenge of Netanyahu to the Israel Zionist left. If you are for two-state solution, you must support this bill. But the source of the debate goes beyond that. How Israel should be perceived internationally. This is how I understand the debate. That's it. Can I say thank you? No?
Netanyahu will appear, before Congress next week, strongly advocating against, a nuclear agreement between the United States and Iran. And the White House has very strongly, opposed this, really very striking language, against this appearance. How will this play out in terms of a nuclear agreement between the United States and Iran? With this conflict, rather than, the United States and Israel sort of cooperating on this. Just a little far field, from some of the others.
No, it's important. This debate about whether to come to the Congress and to speak about the deal with Iran and to emphasize the debate around Iran, that Iran is the enemy of Israel and action should be taken against Iran. This debate itself serving Netanyahu in Israel internal politics. Netanyahu has the interest that this debate will be the main debate in Israel, because this debate is strengthening his status in Israel politics, that I am the person who is challenging all the world, ready to risk my relationship with the President of U.S. just to save the existence of Israel. I am the security person. I am the person who just thinking about security. You are the other politician. You speak about social problem, the prices of the housing. Yes, it's a problem. But first of all, we have to speak about our existence. So unlike the world, all the world look at the coming of Netanyahu to the Congress as strange, weird thing. That may be the first time in the history of diplomacy in U.S. having something like that Prime Minister of other country come to the country, to its parliament, despite the unwilling of the President, and despite the fact that even the American Jewish establishment against his visit, and all the world look at it weird. In Israel politics, this is a great thing for Netanyahu. This is the greatest gift that he got. He tried to shift the debate from poverty, social problem, to Iran. The Labour Party want to speak about other issues. Poverty, salaries, problem of housing, also the problem in the house of Netanyahu, that his wife returned empty bottles and got the money. This is what they want. Netanyahu is great. He wants to play big politics. For him, I am the person who speak about the high politics of the Middle East. You are playing games with the empty bottles of my wife. So this debate serving Netanyahu. Exactly as the vote of the Labour Party to disqualify Arab political candidate serve the Labour Party. Right-wing chauvinism, racism lead to irrationality even in this politics.
How will it impact the United States' ability to reach an agreement now?
I don't know this. This is not my specialty. Ask me Arab Jews in Israel, I will feel stable, safe. I can. About this security matters in region, this Netanyahu good did this. Yeah.
Hassan, I wonder if the coalition that's come together for the Arab list of otherwise diverse views is a one-off event, is an unusual event that will have no or little ongoing effects on Palestinian politics. And where I'm particularly interested in is in the West Bank and in Gaza, and we're in the diaspora, whether there will be some spillover effects of thinking nationally rather than thinking partisanly in larger Palestinian politics because of this moment.
Yeah. In fact, after the declaring of the joint list, the media and the political debate in West Bank and Gaza look to this attempt as good model. And many journalists, many intellectuals use this as good example to join power together against the occupation rather than to continue with the fragmentation between Gaza and West Bank. And still until now, many use and rely on this experience as good experience to join power when your existence under threat, when you are discriminated against, when you are living under occupation. The Palestinian Authority encouraged also the Arab political parties to join this list, and many of the Palestinian intellectuals and activists in West Bank, especially because they have direct relationship between our side and the West Bank, encourage this. But it's early to see how much this will affect the future internal politics of the Palestinians in different areas. That's it. We can close.
Put things perfectly for a minute by saying something else. For those of you who are interested in the citizenship law and these distinctions between nationality, citizenship, statehood, I've been funded by the Sabah Foundation to create this open university project, and the first thing I've done is a curriculum, study guide, set of readings with guided questions on the nationality law and on what it means to be a Jewish state for people, for the Palestinian minority within Israel. And so there's it's actually launching tomorrow, so I'll give to CPS nice. The link for this study guide and readings on this material. I'm hoping that student groups will use it, that regular humans will use it. Whoever would like to would take the readings and these questions and use it as a way to educate yourselves and dig a bit more deeply into the subject.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions from our learned? We have as learned an audience as we have a speaker today. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to ask you about the relationship between West Bank, Gaza, and this joint list. If there is any more of a relationship than there has been in the past.
Especially with the West Bank, because it's easy to have access from West Bank to the Green Line to the West Bank. People can visit West Bank and create connection. All the time, the Palestinian leadership inside the Green Line has strong relationship with the Palestinian leadership all the time. And now also there is strong relationship, and after Oslo the relationship became stronger than before, because before the PLO was, based on Israel law, declared as a terrorist organization. So based on Israel law, Palestinian citizens of Israel won't be allowed to have contact with the PLO. It was crime based on Israel law, but today is not. And today there is possibility to have physical contact and to meet in Ramallah. So yes, all the Palestinian leadership has strong leadership with the Palestinians in West Bank.
If I could add, it's interesting to me that you speak positively about Oslo, because generally we understood that really didn't do much for the Palestinians.
Yeah, I mentioned one aspect of Oslo. I didn't speak about the fact that since Oslo until now, the number of settlements were increased, the number of settlers were increased, the number of checkpoints were increased. Gaza put under siege. Before Oslo, we have freedom of movement between Gaza and West Bank, and Gaza and West Bank and Green Line. People from Gaza work in Tel Aviv freely, and people from West Bank work in Haifa freely, and all of us visited each other. The best time of the Palestinian people, ironically, were between 1967 until Oslo. And Palestinian refugees from Gaza were allowed to come and to visit their places, their homes, but they are not allowed to live there, to see them. It was the golden age.
Thank you for it.
Yeah, thank you.
I was wondering if you could tell us more about the ongoing struggles in the Upper Negev with Palestinians, especially the Bedouin there, and how that impacts this question about participation in the elections for Palestinian citizens of Israel.
Yeah, one of our hardest cases is the question of unrecognized Bedouin villages in the south. We have at least 200,000 Bedouin, Palestinian Bedouin, that they live in places in the south, in Naqab, that consider unrecognized village. So what's this term of unrecognized and village? If you are village, you are not unrecognized. How this? We are speaking about places, villages, that they have their names, they have their people live there. Many of those places are residential places, and the people live there before 1948. Some of them live since the 50s. But they are unrecognized because Israel doesn't give them official name. They are not in the map, and they don't belong to any local council. And Israel doesn't recognize their right to build homes because it recognizes their land that they live on that un-Urbanian land, and therefore all the homes are matter for demolition. And this is one of the most crucial cases that we are facing. We have many cases that we have been debating in the courts, and Suhad can speak about it in the next session. She is the lawyer on those cases. We have been in those cases since 2002 until now. We didn't finish, to prohibit, to use all the legal procedure to prohibit, to demolish some of those villages. For example, one of those villages, al-Hiran village, the people live in that village since the 50s, and they were asked to move from their original place to this place by Israel, by the military regime. And now Israel, after more than 60 years, decided that those people should be evacuated in order to build a Jewish settlement called Hiran instead of al-Hiran. So we are debating, like, very, very basic question, whether it's legitimate to make this evacuation in order to put people just in order to Judaize the place. Although we are speaking about the biggest place in the country, the desert, the south. It's empty. You know, you don't need to build in this place. So this creates frustration among the people there. Some of the people want to see that the election will give hope, that if the joint list will succeed, the joint list can put conditions to support from outside the government some side, like, say, the Labour Party. Like, we will support you without being part of the coalition, and we bar the right wing through our power, parliamentary power, to constitute the government, but we have conditions. One of the conditions, let us speak about the problem of home demolition and unrecognized villages in the south. So the joint list asks us what the main issue that we see in Adalah that they have to put in the table if they reach this moment that the Labour Party can make the government with their support of the joint list without being of the coalition. What are the conditions? What are the things that they have to demand and to agree upon? Our first thing said unrecognized villages. To stop home demolition, this is the first claim that we have. So people have hope because maybe this is the last thing. All the time in this situation, when you live in your existence under threat, and you are not managing armed struggle or violence. The people are not using violence as political mean. So still for them sometimes the hope to go to the court, a new election to change the Minister of Interior, maybe a new political balance will affect. So there is hope, but at the same time, people say our experience more than 60 years here didn't show serious change. I want to be optimistic. So.
I want to know why no major issues are part of the Israeli election. Like, application now is not at all being discussed as part of the Israeli. The ICC issues of the ICC that everybody is speaking about in the world is not part of the election. EDS is not part of the election. None of these issues are part of the Israeli election.
Because I say that the fact, like, I wanted to connect the question of disqualification of the Arab political parties and the support of the Labour Party in order to understand Israel politics more. When the Labour Party, rationally, they have to be with the Arab list, with the Jew. They are ready publicly to say we are against this list. And they see that this is how they see the internal politics of Israel. To be against the Arab citizens is good. So, of course, you can understand not to speak about ending the occupation is good for those political parties. And everything that fall in the national conflict, put it aside because you are not going to gain votes from that. The only side who speak about the conflict is the right wing. The other side, they know that they are going to lose if they are speaking about it. I think that there is strange dynamic between Israeli Zionist leaders and the Jewish population. They read the situation, the leaders, in this way. The people against the Arabs, so we have to be against the Arabs. The people don't want to speak about end of the occupation, so we don't have to speak about ending the occupation. I ask why the question is not the other side around. The people are neutral to this question, and if the leaders will start to speak about ending the occupation, the people will go with them. But they read the relationship between leaders and people. The people lead us, and we have to follow them. And they read the people in very, very conservative way. I don't think that all the Israeli Jewish population think in this way. I think the leaders make them think the way. And the leaders want them to think in this way because they don't have horizon. Like I don't see, like you enter Tel Aviv, you see, wallah, I am surrounded with racist Jews that everyone want to kill Arab. It's not like that. The leaders are the problem. And because they don't have horizon, they read their population in this way. So I think that between them, they make the people racist and accept racism and legitimize that, not the opposite.
I'm glad we don't have that problem in the U.S.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's something I didn't really get good. I mean, you said that those antagonist Arab groups and political parties came together because they feel at a certain moment that their identity is under threat. And when someone asks you, what do you think will happen once the elections are there and the results are there, you said, I don't know. I see a sort of contradiction.
Yeah, of course.
Really
Yeah.
their identity is under threat. How come there's no common program?
This is exactly the contradiction. This is exactly. Because we are different, we are a people. Like any other people, you have secular, you have nationalists, you have chauvinists, you have feminists, you have religious, and. And we want to speak about our differences. But the situation is so strong to the level that we are ready temporarily to put our differences aside and to face racism. But doesn't mean that we forgot our differences. And this is the question of West Bank and Gaza. Many Palestinian intellectuals and activists say, we don't understand this fragmentation between Gaza and West Bank. We have to be united in order to face the occupation. The fragmentation is not serving us. We can continue to speak about our differences between religious group, secular group, but in the question of facing the occupation, we have to have one united leadership. Now here the joint list of the Palestinian and Israel can show a model that you can create one united leadership to face the discrimination, but at the same time, internally, in the Arab cities, in the Arab villages, we can continue debate each other and different. In the Knesset is not the place to speak about the differences between Arab chauvinism and Arab nationalism and Arab liberalism and Arab feminism. This is not the place. This is a place about discrimination. This is a place about occupation. This is a place about economic rights. And let us be one front there. Because this is not the place to debate the relationship between Arab national aspect and Arab liberal aspect. No one will listen to us there. And it's a relevant question. So this question, make it internally in Haifa, in Nazareth, in al-Fahim. In the parliament, let us be one leadership to serve democratic values for all of the citizens, and at the same time to be against the occupation.
One question is, have the Bedouin in the unregistered villages, they are allowed to vote, right?
This is the first time that I hear this term. It's nice. Unregistered villages. It's also fit the unrecognized. Unregistered, yeah.
And they vote.
Yeah.
And do they vote?
They vote and they pay taxes, but their villages are not recognized. Yeah, they can. They are citizens. Yeah, they are citizens.
And just one very brief question. There is a population in Israel of Arab Jews, and who we understand are greatly discriminated against. But is there
Arab
any
Jews?
protest?
Arab Jews.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any protest by that population about the enemizing of their people?
There is a small group, the Mizrahi group, the Eastern Jews, the Middle Eastern Jews. They are the majority among the Jewish population in Israel. But who define themselves as Arab Jews or Arab Jews, they are very small intellectual groups. Their effect in the politics is minor. Their effects in the academia is stronger. So this is like, yeah, they emphasize, they say we have to speak about our identity. We are Iraqi, we are Moroccanian, we are proud in our belonging to the Arab nations. Some of them, they started in their late age, in their 50s and 60s, to learn Arabic language. They say that Israel all the time oppress our identity, our belonging. We are proud on that. At the same time, we are Jews and we are not shy by either. We are Jews and we are Arabs. The Middle East was a part of the identity of the Arab nation was to have Jews, and we are part of that. But the effect, they are my friends, and they won't be angry if I say that politically their influence is minor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.